not deliver the LED boards. And then later on, this Hanover company, which is from UK, we paid them around 1,60,000 or 1,25,000 after 1 or 2 years of struggling with these people. So we lost lot of time and we got the boards ultimately, which is costing more than a lakh. Now even after 10, that gave me 10 years warranty. So the quality and governance, good governance means the people should not go just by the rule of books. They can also look at outside perspective, like the experience of these politicians or non-official members is also gives value to the board.
Mr. Shivanand, I've got another dimension for you. There is always this conflict between the amount of dividend a shareholder gets and the managerial remuneration. So some people would think that if you gave the shareholders, say 20% dividend, they'll be extremely happy and they are unlikely to suspect that the managerial remuneration is very inflated and disproportionate to what they really are entitled to. So do you think that there is a little bit of hoodwinking that is happening, and what should the shareholders be actually doing if you are really supporting activism?
I think there should be like they should have more awareness, and if they educated, some awareness can be generated among the shareholders. This company actually what they are doing, and there must be some logic behind if the remuneration of the executive, chief executive or top management is high. So I think if that can be very well informed and calculated, so I think that problem can be minimized, and that problem or conflict may be diminished. However, right now I think most of the information is available online, but still some more information or education can be provided, something like that.
Thank you. I want to, before you respond to that, I want to ask one question. You have seen that the Department of Company Affairs for many years now has been collecting a whole lot of funds and call it as Investor Education Fund. All the fines go there. But I haven't seen any evidence of that money being really used for investor education. And I do believe that Investor Education Fund is a very good ground to support this activism. Why do you think that's not happening?
Truly speaking, the government has not come out largely so many years as to the right agenda for investor education fund, as well as the right agenda or the right process by which they will carry through this investor education. But keeping it aside, the one aspect which the government has done, apart from making this investor education fund as a matter of a compliance by every company in respect of transferring the unclaimed and unpaid dividends to them after a period of about 7 years, etc. The main issue that centers around is in what period of time a person would be able to claim it back from the government in case he finds that his claim is genuine. I believe this education is going through in many channels. In fact, I have seen many information channels, information bulletins of MCA itself today carrying that if you have got an amount of unpaid dividend relating to so many years back, these are, in fact, even today, the list of unclaimed dividend in soft form is available at the MCA site, and those who feel that they haven't got their dividend in those years quoting their DP number or quoting their shareholder folio, can refer, check and go back and get the money from the investor education fund, for which purpose it is there. But how much of education really has happened is $1 million question, which I am really not in a position to give you a statistic based answer. But I would put it this way, there are other organizations like SEBI. SEBI is organizing through different forum, industry forum, particularly CII, FICCI, ASSOCHAM, MCCI, with which I am associated with, and ICAI, with which I know pretty well my friend Vishwanath is associated, in terms of providing periodical investor education as to what are the rights of a shareholder. These are all things that are going on. In fact, I am associated with the MCCA in a big way in terms of giving them every month a specific focused lecture on what are the rights of shareholders. I have taken sessions on 5 major topics. One on what constitutes their financial rights. What can they claim from the company in terms of apart from dividend. 2, I have taken them issues, what are the areas where they can take action on the company for wrong information or incorrect or I would even put this way, concealed information. 3, what are the areas where the shareholder can per se look at CSR as a major thrust, which if the company has not done, which they are eligible to throw up and make the company firm up their plans for CSR. 4, issues relating to environment, health and safety within the company, which they are aware of, the shareholders are aware of, but the company has neglected. Like that, I have taken sessions to the set of shareholders in different companies in MCCA, for which SEBI is giving the guidance, and I believe SEBI has got the mandate from the government in this regard. That's my response in this regard.
Thank you. Let me turn to the floor and ask if anyone wants to make an observation and comment. Yes, sir. Here. Please.
My name is Giri Krishnan. I'm a HR consultant for a couple of companies, both IT and non-IT. What I'm given to see is most of the good corporate companies adopt best manufacturing practices, world-class manufacturing practices, as well as HR best practices. Why is that there are so many scams, and why is that there is no best corporate governance practices which is being adopted in India? That's number 1. And number 2, according to whatever rating I've been seeing, I think India is somewhere in the CG Watch rating, they are somewhere number 8 in the Asia Pacific region. Okay, very many companies who are well above us, smaller nations, probably are adopting boardroom practices. Okay, probably through a software. Why is that in India we are not able to do that? Somebody can answer this. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. That was a very pertinent question that you have raised. One important point I would like to state is that IOD is taking up the cause of whatever you have said, like best risk management practices across corporates. Annually, awards are held in different parts of the globe, including India, to provide information about companies which are practicing best risk management practices. Ashok Leyland is one company which has recently won the Best Risk Management Award in Singapore. Okay. Second, way back again, you are asking for manufacturing practices. IOD is again conducting awards, that is calling for awards from different manufacturing entities who are practicing ethical and environmental friendly manufacturing practices. And again, Ashok Leyland has bagged the award for best manufacturing practices in October 18 at the convention held in London. I am not here either to advertise for IOD or for Ashok Leyland at all, not at all. But things are happening. There are not only IOD, there are other institutions. In fact, IOD is conducting quite a number. In fact, if you have gone through the annals of how much of awards IOD is conducting annually, it is bandwidth is too huge. It is providing on CSR, it is providing on environmental health and safety. All that canvas which you have said are done. But let us keep aside how much of IOD is doing. But in the recent past, MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and Government of, on top of it, the Invest India initiative of the Government of India has teamed up a lot of efforts on making how best Indian manufacturing practices can be equal to that of the best among the corporates of the world. This is to say that there are a lot of agencies which are collecting statistics apart from MCA, apart from Invest India, to give you an updated information. If you take, for example, manufacture of tire, where are we in terms of the right amount of rubber ratio? Rubber ratio is one which is very critical in tire manufacturing. Okay? If you will be surprised to see that India is standing second in the world in terms of rubber ratio globally. This statistics is available with Ministry of Corporate Affairs and other ministries, industry ministry. Why I am saying this is, a lot of information has been gathered about how good practices are done by many of the corporates in India. See, after 1991, and the liberalization came up in a big way, and after 2003, when the Atalji mission on good governance came up, a lot of efforts have been taken by different corporates to spruce themselves up. Otherwise, today we may not be in a world where at least 10 big industrial houses in India has got an investment close to about 400 billion globally. 10 big industrial houses in India have got investments across the globe in different parts to almost near 400 billions. That is proof enough to say that a lot of efforts are taken that way. But in the context of shareholder activism, how much a shareholder has been able to know about these things is a matter of concern.
Thank you.
That is very important only when it comes up in their annual report. And sustainability report is one important tool which is coming up nowadays to provide more information about whatever you ask for. Most of the companies have now been, that is BSE 100 companies have been asked to report on sustainability report as a mandatory one. You can get more information on whatever we have now been discussing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Just to add to that, corporate governance is not just an abstract phenomenon. It's a bundle of number of things that go into making a corporation actually work very efficiently. Therefore, institutionalizing corporate governance is extremely important. That comes in the nature of the selection of the kind of directors, diversity. You can't have a directors full of lawyers, you can't have directors full of accountants. You need to have different people of different competencies. The entire thing is based upon the principle convergence arising out of divergence. The divergent board actually debates every issue and then there is convergence, or there could be a constructive disagreement as well. The audit committee, the remuneration committee, they all play an important role. And more importantly, is the board engaged in implementing a code of conduct and ethics, or is a simple lip service? Is the board really engaged in actually having an oversight on sexual harassment? Is the board really engaged in whistleblower policy? Is the board actually looking at stakeholder grievance? There is something called a stakeholder grievance committee. At the end of the day, governance is not confined to the board. Governance is the perception of the shareholder. Just as the famous saying goes, justice should not only be done, but be seen to have been done. Right? The Dhobi thought that Rama's wife Sita is not chaste, so she was banished. That's an extreme example, but it only demonstrates the point that the common man's perception, and in this case the shareholder's perception. So you may scream corporate governance in very voluble terms, but is the shareholder convinced? How are you going to communicate to him that we are a well-governed company? I think that's where the challenge lies. And that's where the shareholder will be looking for some very comforting answers. Okay. Any other comment or question from the floor? Please. Please go ahead. Please.
The other second question which I still have in my mind is there any boardroom software which is available for the boards, which the boards can adopt? Yes, sir.
Let me take this. Business was existing even before SAP, even before Tally. So what does a software do? Software brings you ease of doing and in a consistent manner. Software cannot deliver. It can only facilitate. When you say the boardroom governance practices, as Prasanna rightly said, governance is all about two things for me. One, accountability. Two, transparency. Accountability is the strength in your spine to stand erect as board. Transparency, the perception that the other guy is getting from your talk or the walk. So these are practices. This is dharma. I just take, because Prasanna started the Ramayana, I take the other example. What is the difference between Rama and Ravana? Ravana has actually done his tapas. Rama never did. Ravana has by-hearted all the Vedas, not Rama. But today we worship Rama, but not Ravana, for one simple reason. Ravana knows dharma. Rama practiced dharma. Governance is all about practice. So, my father, who happened to be my headmaster, I had the good opportunity, and I am well governed both at home as well as at school, at the early days of my life. He used to tell me, governance starts at dining table. If you can bring values and make kids and students imbibe and absorb these values, there may be margin of error, but there is no intent to commit error. So the practices, information is available. Earlier, Indian environment was not having the accessibility to the information. With the advancement of technology, yes, surely it is accessible today. That way we are fortunate. But the values, we are very richer as Indians. So if we bring these values and the best practices of the West in terms of the investment, where you can curb the greed in the minds of the entrepreneurs, you can surely contribute to the better governance, is value. Just to conclude, probably you can have a look at, there are frameworks which are available around the governance.
At the end of the session, it's 4:30, and I'm sure you all have something very interesting to do on Saturday evening, so I have to let you go. And please join me in thanking the panel, and thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Even if it is the last session of a big conclave like this, the attendance has almost been full, as I saw at the beginning of the day. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and have a lovely evening. Thank you.